What's up, and welcome to another episode 5 of the Grind Line podcast. It's been a while. This is Tyler here alongside Greg and Ryan. Ryan, how you doing tonight?
Oh, not too shabby. How are you guys tonight?
I mean, it's hockey dead
pretty
season.
good. Greg?
It's dead season. We're all waiting.
Starting to pick up a little bit.
I mean, we're waiting for non-depressing news.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So, Greg, do you want to get right into it?
Yeah. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the Dylan Larkin contract. It's been about a month since we've put out a podcast, and that happened randomly one afternoon. Then we're going to give a little bit of an update on Henrik Zetterberg, and then we're going to talk about the current Red Wing cap situation and what needs to happen if we want to play some rookies. But I think we'll start with Dylan Larkin. We all know that Dylan Larkin was signed to a pretty hefty contract. He got, and I don't want to fuck this up, so hold on a second. He got 5 years, $6.1 million, which is, I feel like that is a home run contract for someone like Dylan Larkin, that you're going to make the captain of your team. And he's going to be your star player, your 1C going into the future, especially with Zetterberg's uncertainty. Ryan, what do you think about the Larkin signing?
It's about time. I mean, yeah, you don't want to rush it because of what he had shown since he's pretty much been on the roster. Yeah, he had the sophomore slump, but you could tell from day one that he was going to be the type of impact player Detroit was needing. He's not the true goal-scoring threat that they're hoping maybe Mantha will become, or maybe possibly Zadina. But he's a guy that, especially last year, even going through all the ups and downs of the season, when they put him on the camera after the game was over, he had that character that you would expect of a team leader and a captain. And it was a no-brainer. And I think for the price, it's over $6 million. I get it. He's making more than Z, but I mean, he also led the team in points last year. He dominated with the setting guys up, and that's why he led the team in assists. I know people are freaking out that he could be a possible defensive liability, but if you put him in the right spot, he's going to make things happen. He's just aggressive. That's why he loses the puck the way that he does, and he's still young. I'm not really going to fault him for that. So, to me, it's a no-brainer home run, and I fucking love it.
Tyler.
Yeah, I agree. The one that I kind of compare this to is the Leon Draisaitl situation. Had like one really good year and then got 8.5 for 7 years. And, you know, as okay as I would have been with that with Larkin, I'm so glad that they're only paying him 6.1 a year for 5 years. And, you know, that's one of those deals where, like, if he doesn't play that well and he isn't the player we thought he was, like, it doesn't hurt us long term. It doesn't, you know, it's not an 8-year deal or a 7-year deal where it hurts us long term. Now, you know, it's only 5 years, and if he doesn't do that well and, you know, something happens where he doesn't end up being the future captain, then, you know, we're not killing ourselves long term. The term is great. The dollar's great. He's only 22 years old. He's coming off one of his best years. I thought last year was one of his most complete years, even though the first year was really a good half a year. And then, you know, the sophomore slump in year 2. But it's a home run. I mean, there's no other real way to put it. I mean, if you compare it to a lot of other contracts in the NHL, I mean, that's perfect. David Pastrnak got like, what, 8.1 a year or something like that? And I get Pasternak's a goal scorer, but typically centers get more money than wingers, and he's making less than Pastrnak. So I'm really happy about it. Greg, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm the same, but you say there's nowhere else to put it. I say that people on Facebook say differently. So we're gonna read some people from Facebook's comments about the Dylan Larkin contract. We will start with this. Personally, I feel he is slightly overpaid for someone that only gets 60 points. Nylander on the Leafs is better than Larkin and will get around 6.6 to 7 million. Then if Larkin got 6.1. Okay, my first reaction to that is, he said someone that only gets 60 points. You know, every team's got 8 or 9 guys that get 60 points, right? Like,
Uh,
come on.
You know what that sounds like, Greg? That sounds like a guy that doesn't watch that much hockey anymore besides the
No.
Red Wings, and like is still stuck in the 1990s where everybody scored 60 points because the
Yeah.
goalie sucked.
And I bet you that Nylander gets around the same contract as Larkin because, I mean, Nylander put up more points, but, I mean, I don't even see the Leafs possibly keeping Nylander because he's going to cost too much.
mm-hmm.
So here's another gem from Facebook. Man, 6.1 annual wage, typical Ken Holland, 1 million too much. Nice to see him locked up though. Like
That doesn't
1
make
million,
sense.
like
How
$1
does
million was going to make a difference.
What's incredible to me, and didn't want to jump in on you there, Tyler, but like the price over these next several years, if you haven't been paying attention, which obviously these jack wagons haven't been, the salary cap is going up.
Yep. And we're shedding contract.
Yes, that's huge. He did this, and I think it was in Craig Custon's article how he is looking forward to the future. He has a cap-friendly price. He knows what's happening in the next 2 years with how much shit's falling off. He knows some of these guys that are going to be free agents coming up, like Erik Karlsson, for instance. He did this because he knows he can help make the team better because they can get better players.
I know we don't like comparing this to like other sports, but like I mean, Tom Brady has never been even in the top 10 in most paid quarterbacks, and his team is much better because of it. And it's kind of similar. That's what the Red Wings are trying to do. Larkin's taking less so that someone else, you know, like Karlsson or whoever it ends up being, will be able to sign that higher dollar, longer term deal with the Red Wings, hopefully.
Yep.
So here's one of my favorites. I actually answered this person first. I said it's okay to be wrong, and they responded with, "Sure, but I'm not. What has he proved? He's had it given to him. He should have been in the AHL for at least one full season instead of given a spot in Detroit. We say he's the next Stevie. LOL. It will work out just like DK, Mrazek, and Nyquist did."
What?
That's not even comparables. Those aren't comparables.
I mean, I love that he's trying to compare players that don't even play the same position, first of all. And then also the inconsistency of Mrazek coming through. DeKaiser had that one great season, but it was because he was so sheltered and protected. And great is a stretch of a word.
And neither of them were none of them were first-round draft picks.
Nope.
Like, and then these next two, the one says underproven, overpaid, and the other one says, paid too much, not impressed. So there are some people on Facebook that are not fans of the Dylan Larkin signing, and to those people I say, you don't know shit about hockey, you don't know shit about how contracts work, and you like to bitch just to bitch. So got to find a problem with everything. But we will move on to instead of making everyone extremely angry, we will move on to the Henrik Zetterberg update. So Ansar Khan, who is a beat writer for MLive, the Red Wings beat writer, came up with an article. Was that posted today, the 21st of August?
It was yesterday, I believe.
Today.
Is it today?
Okay.
Today.
So they posted an article today. He did a mailbag in which Ryan will read you. You got it up, Ryan?
Yeah.
Okay, in which Ryan will read you the question he was asked and his answer. Go ahead, Ryan.
All right. So to preface this, the header for it is timetable for a new captain. The question, this is from Bob, goes, if Zetterberg's done, actually, do you want me to talk on the new captain, or do you want me to go down further? Mid-season return. Where do you want me to start with this? There's a couple places I can go with it.
I just start where he starts talking. Stuff starts getting dark about Zetterberg.
All right. So they still. I know you'll edit this, but it's the first one's talking about captaincy, then mid-season return realistic, and the void at center.
There's one that talks about him having a bad off season. One of the answers doesn't talk about him having a bad offseason.
Am I in
Or
a different
possibly
article
not
than what you guys were looking at?
returning. Hold on. Let me see.
Oh, I think it's if Zetterberg misses training camp at any length of time this season, I think he's done.
Yes.
Mid-season.
He said Henrik Zetterberg will report to the Detroit Red Wings training camp in mid-September. After that, it remains to be seen what happens. He must pass a physical to take part in training camp.
Oh, literally the start of the thing, not the questions. Gotcha. Okay.
If he's cleared, then he'll test his troublesome back. Realistically, it doesn't appear that he'll play again.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
I'll just go from there.
Yep.
So the Ansar article starts basically right in the heart of gloom and doom. It states how the usual is going to take place mid-September. Everyone's going to report to training camp, which would include Zetterberg. After that, as many are speculating and believing, it's likely that's about the most we'll see of Henrik Zetterberg. The obvious thing that has to take place is he has to take his physical to even take part in camp. And if he's cleared, then he's going to test it, which there's the possibility that he is cleared to see what happens and goes from there. But as to quote Khan, he goes, realistically, it doesn't appear that he'll play again. So I will let you go with that one.
Yeah, so that's pretty dark. I mean, it's kind of what we expected, and I'll let Tyler expand on it in a second. But I think we kind of expected Z with how hush-hush the organization's been, how Holland said, well, his back's been a problem, not looking too good. And then Blashill was on 97.1 the other day, and he said, yeah, Z couldn't practice the whole last half, and he had to push himself really hard to even play the last half of last season. So, I mean, we kind of saw this coming, Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of said this when we did our last podcast. And, I kind of said I thought Henrik Zetterberg had probably played his last game as a Red Wing. And, I mean, as sad as that is to see, I mean, the team's going nowhere. So you put yourself in Henrik Zetterberg's shoes. The nice beard, you got hair, you got probably a nice girl, wife and everything. And, you've won Stanley Cups. You've done everything you've had to do. Actually, he just had the one Stanley Cup. He has a gold medal as well. You've done everything you've had to do as a hockey player. You've performed in the postseason, regular season, everything. Put teams on your back. And now the team's not that good anymore. And even with you at full strength, you probably aren't a playoff team. So is Henrik Zetterberg going through not practicing, not doing all this? Is that even helping the team at that point in time? No. I mean, for him, it's probably just like, like the team's not going anywhere. At least this year. I mean, the only thing I can really bring is leading by example. And I'm still, he's good, but he's not great anymore. And for him, it's probably just not even worth it. Your thoughts, Greg?
Yeah, same. I'm going to agree with you that it's not that it's not worth it because the money is lower. It's that it's not worth it because why? You've got kids, you've got a wife. Why continue to play and then possibly have something horrible happen to where you can't walk anymore? Mm-hmm. Or, I mean, look at Franzen play with a concussion, get another concussion, get cleared, get another concussion, and now his life's like a living hell. So, yep. I mean, it's at this point, it's not about money. I see people online all the time like, well, if he was making $7 million this year, you bet his ass would be on the ice. I go, I don't think so because he makes his money regardless.
Yep.
He goes on LTIR. Yeah. There's no cap implication. We're not going to get hit. He still makes his money. It doesn't matter. If I was him and I couldn't practice the last half of last season, I would have stopped. I wouldn't have even kept playing. I would have said, put me on LTIR, bring up a kid, we're done. But I can understand him wanting to play out the last half of the season to maybe get to 1,000 points, to whatever he wanted to do. But I think he's done, and it's sad. And whoever went to that last game last season, good for you. You got to see Zetterberg's last game, but I think he's done, honestly. I mean, he'll help in camp and everything, and he'll be a scout for the Wings, but I think that's it.
Yeah, I agree. I will say one thing, and if there is one thing that, I remember about Mike Babcock and how much he spoke highly of Henrik Zetterberg and everything. I mean, obviously he's a consummate pro and everything like that. But he even used to say, he said that Zetterberg had that back surgery, right? And during that 2014 injury-riddled season for the whole team. And he said that he was at his office at like 9 o'clock at Joe Louis Arena, and he heard some weights in the weight room. And he goes in there, and Henrik Zetterberg and Pavel Datsyuk, both on injury reserve, are in there lifting weights. So that's how tough and how much these guys love the game. And now, we can go on and on about how Datsyuk left and how people are sour about that. But Zetterberg, if there's one thing about him, he's probably going to try to play. He's probably going to try to come over at least, and then he's probably going to fail the physical, and that's going to be the end of it. That's my guess.
Yep.
Yeah, I think either way, and Khan's got a pretty good pulse on stuff. As much as I don't like his reporting, lately he's been pretty good.
Yep.
So I mean, him, Custance has even said, "Man, I don't know. I don't see it happening." There's a lot of people, a lot of the reporters have come through and said it. So
yeah, to that point, it's just. I think our last pod, but not quite a month ago, we were 60-40 on how we felt about Zetterberg. Yeah. I'd say it's safe that it's getting up to 90-10, 95-5.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably close to right. 80-20. I'm at maybe 80-20 now.
Yeah, I'd go with it. I'm leaning more a little higher just based off what's been said and how it's being consistently said, and especially off Holland's recent comments of it's not been a good summer. And that's been just it's a simple theme that's been going on with him, and it sucks.
Yep.
But it does open up a little bit of cap, which is our next topic here. So with the signing of Dylan Larkin, the Red Wings are really strapped on cap space. And if they want to bring in someone like a Michael Rasmussen or a Philip Zadina, they are going to need some money. As it sits right now, if you were to try and bring in Rasmussen, his contract is $894,000, and you don't have the room to put him into your lineup.
Nope.
Even waiving someone like a Luke Witkowski or a Ferk. Ferk might do it. Witkowski would not make room. Trading someone like Nick Jensen would not make enough room. You would need to get rid of a few $1 million in cap space to be pretty set in where you want to go with it. Zetterberg going on LTIR would free up $6,083,333. So people will say, if Zetterberg goes on LTIR, people will say, they're just using that to free up cap space and bring in kids like Marian Hossa, to which I will say, no, you idiot. He's had back problems forever. But that's what I see them doing. Maybe trading someone like an Athanasi or a Nyquist, but I see it playing out where Zetterberg goes on LTIR. Tyler, what do you think?
Yeah, I think like we said, I mean, Zetterberg probably not going to come back. I mean, he may, like I said, go to training camp, fail that physical, and that'll be the end of it. And, they'll put him on LTIR. He's unable to play. They'll still pay him. He'll probably do some scouting over in Sweden, and that'll be the end of it. But, I mean, that's the only thing I can see other than, maybe Zetterberg playing and then them making some sort of a trade where you trade maybe an Athanasiou, like you said, or even there was talks about teams wanted Darren Helm last year. Maybe you could
buy.
Well, exactly. Yes, that's my point. Buy. You could probably even retain some salary in that kind of deal, because he does make 3.85, which is insane for a guy of his caliber. But, I mean, that's the only way I could see it shaken out, unless there's something really big, like Nick Kronwall possibly not playing or something like that.
I don't think we'd be that lucky.
No, we're not going to get both of the Swedish goats off the ice this year. Zetterberg coming down and being off the books, I think that's their best bet, and it's the likely bet. And if that happens, then we're definitely going to see that infusion of youth that we've been chomping at the bit for years and years. I don't think the defense is going to be impacted in regards to losing a guy off. But in order, if Zetterberg, for whatever reason, stays around, I mean, every guy that we've talked about, unfortunately, just now, Helm, no trade clause, and that's a full throughout the entire this current upcoming season.
Guys like Darren, that's how Kenny Holland was running this ship. Guys like Darren Helm were getting no trade clauses.
Advocators and no trade clause through
God.
the end of 1920, and Nyquist has no stipulation. It's his final year, but it's a no trade clause. So
Franz also has a no trade clause and a no move.
And a no movement clause. Jesus.
Mike Green has a no trade. DeKaiser has a no trade. Kronwall has a no trade. Erickson has a no trade. Trevor Daley has a no trade.
Bye, Nick Jensen.
Yeah, Nick Jensen's literally the only person you could get rid of.
The whole decor has no trade clause. These are problems. Major problems.
The only other option is the dumpster fire of trading Zetterberg's contract to Arizona.
I have one other possible suggestion. Now, I don't know if this is going to happen, but I did see some rumors. I think it was when I was on vacation, I got an alert that said that the teams were interested in Jimmy Howard. That would be one thing that they could free up some cap space, assuming Zetterberg, ends up playing or, whatever ends up happening with that. They could trade Jimmy Howard's contract.
Yeah, and I was listening.
That's the thing.
So I was listening to Red and White Authority, which is Art Regner's, actually the official Red Wings podcast.
Yeah,
and they had Jeff Salako on there, who is the goalie coach.
Yep.
And he was talking to Art, and Art asked about the goalie because it was a whole prospects show, and Art asked about the prospects, like our goalie prospects, and Hari Sateri, who we signed, he says he's NHL ready. He could step into the NHL right now. And they were talking. He was talking about Howard and Bernier and how and Art was like, yeah. So what do you think? Is it going to be like a Bernier can play some games? He might get 20 games, and Jeff said something to the effect of, it might. He's like, I don't know. Anything can happen. They might end up splitting games. Howard's getting a little older. He's not as athletic as he used to be. So he was kind of like downplay. He talked very highly of Jimmy Howard, but he was kind of the downplaying the whole maybe Howie won't play so many games and stuff like that. And we know that Sateri is an NHL goalie. He came in and played for Florida when Luongo went down, and he did phenomenal.
Yeah,
so
wow.
Yeah.
Sateri actually played here in Worcester when the Sharks were here. And my buddy's actually pretty good friends with him. He works in Springfield, and he's pretty close to him. He's a very good goalie. He's pretty athletic. He did go over to the KHL for a while. He just came back over. He might get an opportunity this year if one of our goaltenders goes down.
Yeah, and I think that would be, they need to test out Rybar because no one knows what he can really do. But they're saying that Hari Sateri is an NHL caliber goalie. Even if we traded Jimmy at the trade deadline or whoever at the trade deadline, he could step in and play. So Howard getting traded is probably very far down the list. But if it happened, there would be someone that could come in and play some games until they figure out the situation.
Greg, before we wrap it up, question for you. And this, I don't know if you've had any knowledge about it at all, but I figured I would ask you just because. Erickson had some sort of an issue. I don't know if it was last year or if it was 2 years ago. And they were saying that if he didn't get surgery, he probably wouldn't come back. What do you know what the status is on that?
For his ankle?
Was it supposed to be brain surgery? Or hand surgery?
I think it was ankle surgery or maybe hip surgery. It was something like that. And I don't know if he ever ended up getting it done or not, because I thought it was career threatening.
Oh, wrist surgery was his last big thing.
Okay, so
I mean, we can give him something that could give him a career-ending surgery. Yeah, he fractured his wrist in last February of last year.
Okay.
And he had surgery on it. damn it. And he missed 12 weeks. Those were like the best 12 weeks of our lives. But yeah, Jonathan Erickson, unfortunately, does not have any career-ending surgery that he needs to have done. Unless we can somehow stitch him to the bench so he can't move. But
call Tess.
Yeah, that's Tess. We need you. We need you to talk about Jonathan Erickson. But I am hopeful. We'll end the show with this. What are you hopeful for this season? I am hopeful that Chris Ilitch has the reins on this bitch, says sit who's not performing, and that person who's not performing is Jonathan Erickson, and we get to see Philip Hronek come in. Ryan, what are you hopeful for?
I'm gonna kind of go off the coattails there with the hopefulness, but I'm gonna make it more broad and just keep it for more of a youth movement. Yeah. Holland already made it clear that and Blashill has also made the point to say that if these guys are playing and they're playing well, if they're at a tie, the tie is going to the kid, not the veteran. And that's where this team is at, and they need that, especially for a defense that's so just fucking terrible. Yep. They need scoring, but they need some voodoo magic from Kenny Holland to actually bring in the extra scoring threats and guys like Rasmussen and Zadina right out the gate.
Yeah, I think it'll be a much more watchable season for the Red Wings this year. And my hope is, like Ryan said, that there is a youth movement, and instead of Rasmussen and Zadina coming up and struggling a little bit, and then they get pushed to the third and fourth line. I don't want to see that this year from fucking Coach Blashill. I want to see, if they struggle, they're going to struggle. They're young. They're 18 and 19 years old.
They'll learn.
They're going to learn at the highest level, and nobody has ever been hurt from learning at the highest level. As long as you're not putting guys on the power play, the first power play unit, and then, they struggle, stuff like that, or putting like a rookie goalie in there. But
as long as they're good.
As long as they're good, you're fine. I mean, put them with experienced players, and that's all there is to it.
And the other thing to also be hopeful about is the impact that Dan Bilesma could have on these kids too.
Yep.
Yes.
And that's what I'm most excited about, for what he did with Buffalo and how bad they were. They still were able to score goals, mainly power play is what I'm getting at, and the impact he had on Crosby and those guys in Pittsburgh. So that's the other hope.
Yeah, I'll take it one step further with the whole Bilesma thing. If Jeff Blashill gets off to a rough start, he might be gone, and I think his replacement is right there next to him.
I'm not convinced by that yet because of the state of the team. I don't think he's going to get the axe unless it's really, really bad.
No, I mean, like, if it gets really bad early on, I think and Bilesma would slide right in.
We shall see. I wouldn't be mad, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't.
Well, we'll see what happens. We got some time to figure it out still. But I think that's all we got tonight. Greg, you want to shout out your Twitter handle? I'm glad we're back, by the way, but if you want to shout out your Twitter handle.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Bringing the Wing.
Ryan, go ahead.
At RDRyan33 is my handle.
And you can follow me on Twitter at SealDog91. You can follow the Grindline Podcast on Twitter at GrindlinePod. You can also find us on iTunes, you can find us on Google Play, and you can find us on Stitcher, and I believe you can find us on Spotify as well.
Yep.
For Ryan and Greg, I'm Tyler. Everybody have a good night, and stay classy, Hockey Town. We're looking forward to the season.
Good job.